And welcome back to Welcome to Derry, Season 1, Episode 2. And it starts off right where it ended, except we're seeing things through Lily's point of view in the movie theater this time. We see Teddy get thrown against the wall, and then she makes the mistake of asking for Susie's hand, which the Bat Baby kindly grants her. She wakes up from the nightmare in her bed, with her arms still reached out. Now for the first time, we actually get to see the intro for the show. And if you know anything about HBO shows, they always kill the intros, and this one is right up there with the best of them. We see the Paul Bunyan statue from the It movies, which is currently being built in Derry at the time of this episode. We see a family having a picnic on the hill with a standpipe in the background. We see a girl looking down into the drain just like Georgie did in the first one, with a missing kid poster on the floor next to her. In the background, we also see the now famous Capitol Theater is playing The Music Man. Next, we see them swimming by that red bridge tunnel thing from the original It movies where Henry cuts Ben up. In the corner, you can see some kind of octopus with yellow eyes, which we can only assume is It, offering candy to one of the kids. Then we take a trip to Juniper Hill Asylum, where we see a kid getting a lobotomy and screaming while the nursing staff just has smiles on their faces. Next, we see a family moving into 29 Neobolt Street, which is the haunted house from It Chapter 1 and is said to be the most haunted house in Derry. Next, we zoom out more to see a teacher showing that same house getting blown up with an atomic bomb and a red balloon floating away from it. Pennywise also happens to be working that projector. Then we see him shooting a gun, jumping from a window, flying through the air like some kind of action movie star. And it's the Bradley Gang shootout taking place in front of Banning's gun shop. Then we see the Kitchener Ironworks fire from 1908, where they had an Easter egg hunt gone wrong, and an explosion ended up killing 100 people, including 88 children. And then over there in the corner, you can see Pennywise's trailer. All of this zooms out to form the Welcome to Derry sign, which is absolutely crazy, and that's just the intro. Two police officers sit outside Hank Grogan's house investigating him for the murder at the Capitol Theater, as directed to by the police chief. There were no bodies found at the theater, and they joke that maybe he ate them. Ronnie's grandma Luella watches from the window. Even with an alibi that he was at home that night, they're still trying to pin the murders on him. She argues it's his fault, filling Ronnie's head with Hollywood nonsense, thinking she's some kind of detective, and letting the kids into the movie theater. Ronnie overhears the entire conversation, and they both assure her everything's gonna be okay. Leroy has moved into his house now, and we meet his wife Charlotte and his son Will, who now join them. They admire their house from the outside as a neighbor walks by and gives them a slightly racist side eye. Will goes up to his room and sees that his dad got him a telescope. We later learn it was Charlotte's idea to get the telescope for him, as Leroy's not super close with his son, being that he's in the military and always traveling. And the last few gifts he got him kinda missed the mark. Marge arrives at school and she meets up with Patty and the popular girls known as the Patty Cakes. While they all laugh at one girl admitting to have a crush on a boy, Marge takes it too far and Patty calls her out, saying that she's being mean. Ronnie shows up to school for the first time since the massacre and she meets Lily. Over the intercom, we hear that they recently had a candlelight vigil for the kids that died. In class, Marge tells Lily that she shouldn't hang out with Ronnie. Patty and the other girls don't like her and she should come hang out with them at lunchtime. Lily looks at her with a blank stare and reminds her that her friends just died. Will arrives to class for the first time late and is scolded by the teacher. All the white kids mean mug him, and when he tries to sit down at his desk, they kick the seat out from underneath him so he falls to the ground. Richie picks up his pencil for him and compliments him on the brand. At the air base, Major Hanlon meets Colonel Fuller, who tells him that Masters admitted to the attack and they found the weapon in his quarters. He hasn't found the other two guys yet, but he promises justice will be served. Hanlon confirms the model of the gun used in the attack with him. Charlotte walks through downtown Derry. She passes by the closed Capitol Cinema and sees the new Paul Bunyan statue being built, which is also being protested by angry citizens. She stops by Stan Kirsch's butcher shop and he kindly welcomes her to Derry. Suddenly, she sees three boys chasing down another boy outside. They catch him and start beating him up. She looks around confused and asks why nobody is stepping in to stop them. Stan says boys will be boys, and she rushes out the door to stop the fight. As she does, she notices everybody outside staring at her. She seems confused, not knowing if it's a race thing or the fact she just broke up a fight, or maybe both. At dinner, she's still angry about the situation and tells Leroy about what happened. She wants to try and track down the parents of the kids, but both Leroy and Will tell her that she should leave it alone. It's hinted at that they had to leave Shreveport, the last place they lived, because Charlotte was causing problems and he doesn't want that to happen again. Ronnie lays in bed awake while she listens to her dad and grandma argue in the other room. She's looking at a picture of her deceased mother on the nightstand. Suddenly, she goes to move the sheets and she's stuck in some kind of membrane. She can't get out and it's filling with water. She starts to drown and begins sinking. She struggles to rip through the wall and escapes, turning around to see that her mother had just given birth to her on the bed. Her mother looks at her and says, "Ronnie, you tore me apart. You killed those kids, and the cops are gonna come get your dad and he's gonna fry." Her mother starts dragging her closer to her by the umbilical cord that's still attached to her stomach. She's being dragged towards a mouthful of jagged teeth, and we can see glowing yellow eyes on the inside. As she gets closer, she bites through the cord to free herself and crawls backwards as her mother stands up with all of her bones breaking and rushes towards her. It's terrifying. She screams on the ground and Hank runs in. Everything's back to normal again. At the Falcon Tavern, Dick Halloran and a couple of his fellow airmen, Jax and Reggie, laugh over drinks as they discuss the attack on Leroy. They were all questioned about it except for Dick. On the other side of the bar, Police Chief Bowers comes in and is instantly harassed by two councilmen on why he hasn't arrested Hank for the murders yet. He says he has no evidence and Hank has a solid alibi that he wasn't there. They threaten him to do his job or come next election, they'll find somebody who will. The chief looks over at the loud airmen laughing and whispers something to the bartender. As the bartender walks towards them, Dick looks at his two friends and tells them it's time to go, almost like he could sense what was coming. Annoyed there's no place for them to hang out and relax, Dick says he knows a place they can take him to that serves moonshine, which is stronger than what they're used to. They return to the base later that night, hammered drunk, and get stopped by a security guard who questions why they're out when the whole base is on lockdown. Dick says he has special privileges, the shinin', but the guard doesn't believe him. He calls in and gets told they're all clear to go. Dick's got some pull around here. We see the army in the woods at a dig site. They're excavating the land looking for something while we see a group of Native Americans watching them from up in the hills. The site is being led by Dick Halloran, who has a gift that tells them where to dig at. However, this is the fourth dig site in 4 months, and they haven't found much more than scraps of whatever it is they're looking for. But Halloran says they're close. This is interesting because in The Shining, he explains that alcohol numbs the ability to shine, which is exactly why Jack and Danny Torrance both became alcoholics in The Shining and Dr. Sleep. It's the only thing that can make the voices in their head go away. It's lunchtime at school, and Lily walks straight past Marge and the patty cakes to go sit alone. Ronnie comes in and tells Lily about her vision the night before. They discuss the stories they told police, and while Lily told Ronnie she saw a monster come out of the screen, she told the police she wasn't sure what she saw. Ronnie's worried that her dad's gonna get blamed if she doesn't tell the whole truth, and she's worried she's gonna get sent back to Juniper Hill if she does. Marge and the patty cakes look on and talk shit about him from across the room. Marge is trying so hard to fit in and it's cringy as fuck, but she's getting laughs from the other girls except for Patty, who doesn't seem to like someone else getting the attention, so she knocks her down a few pegs by calling her out and saying she's wearing the same sweater she was yesterday. Gasp. Which is actually pretty similar to what she did earlier when she told her to stop because she was being mean. She just doesn't like anyone else getting laughs. Charlotte goes back to the shop where her husband bought the telescope. It's called Secondhand Rose. Crazy enough, this is the same exact store that Bill found his bike in Chapter 2. She's greeted by Rose, a nice Native American, and tells her she's looking for furniture to fill up their new house. Richie and Will hang out in the hallway, and Richie stares in awe as Marge walks by with the patty cakes. He's in love. I don't know why, but he's in love. Someone runs in, throws a stink bomb down the hallway, and they run off. As Will runs off, he collides with his teacher and gets blamed for the stink bomb. In detention, he meets Ronnie, who's in there for cussing during lunch. Will's reading a book about science because he loves it. Ronnie calls him a weirdo, and they become friends. They hear some commotion outside and look to see Lily getting taken away by the police in a police car. Chief Bowers questions her in his office, but it's more of a threat, saying that if she doesn't admit Hank was there and he was the one that did it, that she's going to be the next suspect because there's no witnesses and she was found covered in blood. He then tells her he's going to send her to Juniper Hill for an assessment if she doesn't give him answers. As she cries, he decides to rephrase the question for her and manipulate her by asking if she can say with 100% certainty that Hank wasn't there that night. They arrest Hank and Ronnie runs straight to Lily's house. She confronts her and asks what she said to the police, but Lily's mom closes the door in her face. At the airbase jail, Hanlon questions Masters about the attack. He pulls out a pistol he's had since his time in a Korean war camp. It's the same model the attackers used on him. It's difficult to operate, and he baits Masters into using it, but he can't even cock it, let alone use it the way the attackers did. Hamlin goes to General Shaw and tells him that he's innocent. He lied on his confession. It wasn't him. Shaw tells him to sit down and reveals that it was all just a test. They had to make sure he was okay after the major brain injury he suffered in Korea. Most people don't recover from it, let alone continue to fly planes. He damaged his amygdala. It's the part of the brain that controls emotional responses, such as fear, making him essentially fearless, which is exactly why they need him. Lily walks into the grocery store and she's stared at by everyone while she shops. She starts to hear voices of people whispering that she's crazy and she's insane behind her back. She starts to panic and rushes around a corner only to see a dead end. The dead end is a shelf full of cereal boxes with the faces of her dead friends all over them. She tries to go the other way, but it's a dead end as well, except this time it's pickle jars and her dad's head is in one of them. She screams and shatters it on the ground while the other jars jump off the shelf. Her dad's body parts from the different jars come together and form some kind of tentacled blob with his head sitting on top of it that approaches her and fish hooks her in the mouth before crawling up her legs. She screams and snaps out of it. She's in the grocery store, on the ground. Everybody's staring at her and she's got a jar of broken pickles at her feet. Afterwards, Lily's mom takes her to Juniper Hill. Shaw takes Hanlon into the restricted hangar and we see a huge operation underway. People in lab coats taking pictures of all kinds of evidence, including what appears to be baseball jerseys. He tells Hanlon that Russia wants to put nukes in Cuba, and what they have in this hangar could be their only hope to stop that from happening. There's a weapon they're looking for that was buried in Derry years ago. It generates debilitating fear into anybody that gets near it, enough fear to kill a man where he stands. They don't know exactly what it is or how it works, but it's surrounded by a group of objects or beacons, and if they can find them, they'll be able to pinpoint the exact location of the weapon. And that's when they're interrupted and told they found something at the dig site. They head over to see an old car being pulled out of the ground, as Halloran looks on saying, "I told you." As it raises up, the doors of the car swing open and mud pours out, revealing it's full of dead bodies, guns, and money. This is the same car from the intro and the Bradley gang shootout. Is Pennywise gonna cause the goddamn Cuban Missile Crisis? That's insane. If they find a way to tie that in, that's gonna be such an epic twist. This show continues to impress me. It's extremely well done. Just the intro alone, HBO always kills it. The level of detail they put into it is absolutely crazy. I watched it over and over, pausing it, rewatching, and I'm sure I still missed something. And my God, I feel so bad for Lily. Every scene she's in just breaks my heart. I really hope somehow her ending in this story is a good one, but I'm not getting my hopes up. Same for Ronnie, man. After losing her mom, she's so protective of her dad. And for him to get arrested like that in front of her for something she knows he didn't do is hard to watch. Although I'm glad to see her and Will clicked a little bit, as well as him and Richie. Oh, and the two Pennywise visions they had were so much more personal and unsettling than the ones they had in the first episode. It seems like he completely leveled up his attacks going after them for a second time. I mean, after that, a talking lampshade really ain't that scary. And I don't know what this whole Mean Girls storyline is with Marge, but she's annoying the shit out of me. It's the airbase that really has my attention. Hanlon is a certified badass, and now we know what's going on in that restricted hangar. Well, kind of. It really seems like they're heading towards Pennywise having something to do with the Cuban Missile Crisis, which would be fucking wild. Them digging up that Bradley gang shootout car at the end was pretty wild too. I did a little bit more research on the book after the last episode, and the Bradley gang was one of the things I read about. And like I said, which means if that's what they're digging up as beacons, all the other beacons they're looking for could be related to past murders or massacres, and they showed that car in the intro, so it could be other stuff they showed in the intro that they're looking for as well. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this episode 2 recap. If you have actually made it this far in the video, please comment Cuba down below. Don't think anybody will, but it would be cool if I got one. Also, please make sure you like and subscribe. I'll be back next week with episode 3. Thanks for watching.